Welcome to another chapter of Read Aloud. Today we will be reading chapter 14, Mavic Thinks Some Thoughts. And in this chapter they are going to come up with a plan, and I want you to use your amazing critical thinking skills to decide if this was the best plan they could have come up with, and if you can think of a better one, then I'd love to hear it. All right, let's go. Chapter 14, Mavic Thinks Some Thoughts. "So, we gonna get going?" Mavic asked. He just downed his last leafful of soup Morella had made using herbs and water from the brook. It was disgusting, and Aurella thought eating it was almost as bad as being hungry. It tasted like leaves and dirty water, probably because that's exactly what it was. But Mavic didn't seem the least bit bothered. "No, not just yet," Morella said. She glared at each of them in turn. "Not until you can both tell me what you learned from yesterday's incident." Aurella and Mavic spoke at the same time. "Earthquakes are stupid. Wolves suck." Two startled birds flew from the tree above them. A feather floated down and almost landed on Aurella's shoulder. She flicked it away and glared at Mavic. "What?" Morella resisted, rolling her eyes. "What is the number one rule of manipulation?" "What, there are rules now?" complained Mavic. "Always use as little energy as possible," said Morella. "Why would that be important, Mavic?" "So you don't pass out like a sissy girl." "So you don't hurt yourself. What could you have done differently?" "I don't know, there were wolves trying to eat Ella. I just did the first thing that popped into my head." "Well, you can't do that. You have to be smart. When you can think of a solution that wouldn't leave you unconscious on the ground, let me know. Now, Aurella, what could you have done differently?" "I don't know. I made myself invisible to them and inaudible," she said, folding her arms defensively. "What else could I have done?" "You're familiar with dogs, right? What sense do they rely on most?" "Oh." Aurella felt like an idiot. "Is that what you did with the bear? You made us unsmellable?" "Partially. I first made sure he couldn't see, hear, or smell us. Then I made it hear footsteps running behind it, and threw our scent in that direction." "Why not just control the bear and make it run away?" "Because eventually he would just come right back, since that kind of spell does not have a specific time limit. And controlling people and animals takes a lot more energy than deceiving their senses. Now, Mavic, have you come up with a more practical solution?" He scratched his head. "Drop a tree branch on them?" She nodded. "That's a possibility. What about using the wind to blow dirt into their eyes and throw off your scent?" Mavic looked at her like she was crazy. "I can't control the wind, Morella." "Yes, you can. You can control all the elements. It's part of being a warlock. How are you an expert healer but had no idea about that?" He smiled sheepishly. "There's only so much room under the floorboards." Aurella couldn't control her envy. "Mavic gets to heal and control the wind and make earthquakes? No fair, all I get is mind games." Morella blinked and raised her eyebrows. "You have within you the power to control people, to make them do as you wish, to essentially take away their will. That is not a power to take lightly." She was tempted to argue, but one look at Morella's stern expression, and Aurella stopped herself. Instead, she asked, "Were there some witches that did?" Morella's face darkened. "I'm not saying they deserved murder, but let's just say there were some witches who were asking for it, and we all had to pay the price. Now, Mavic, remind me of the number one rule of manipulation." "Use as little energy as possible." "And Aurella, what did you learn?" "Don't be hasty, I guess, and think of all possibilities." "Very good. Now, since you two have never been taught, we can just forget about this little incident and move on. But in the future, I expect you both to be a bit smarter, understand? I don't want you killing yourselves before you even get to Rashtika." Mavic chuckled. "But it's okay if we kill ourselves after we get to Rashtika?" Morella simply glared at him, and he held his hands up. They packed up their few belongings and began walking north when a soft breeze morphed into a harsh gust that almost blew Aurella over. She clutched Mavic's arm to hold herself steady. "Awesome!" he grinned. "Was that you?" "You bet it was me. This is so cool." Aurella pointedly picked a few leaves from her hair. "Mavic, stop playing with your powers," Marilla scolded him. "Remember what I said about conserving your energy." They continued on without a word, but for a few gleeful chuckles from Mavic. They walked almost all day through the dense forest, their shoes crunching over leaves, twigs, and moss. On they went, and nothing of consequence occurred except for Mavic blowing Aurella's hair into her face and Aurella making him slap himself. "How far have we gone?" asked Mavic, trying to see where the sun was in the sky through the dense cover of trees. "I'm not quite sure," Marilla admitted. "I'm afraid we might have traveled too far west, but if we stray too far east, we might run into hemlock, and that would not be good. I don't want you two anywhere near that place." "What should we do?" Mavic asked. "None of us has a compass, and while the sun is helpful with general directions, we could start traveling slightly east or west and veer off course." "You're right. So I'm going to head east until I find a road or city. I will get a general idea of how far west we are, and then meet up with you two here. That way you can stay safely out of the way." "So we just sit here and wait until you come to pick us up?" Mavic shook his head. "We'll lose so much time that way." "What do you suggest?" Mavic absent-mindedly stroked his chin as he racked his brain for a solution. He couldn't find one. "I think our best option is for you two to stay here, and then I'll come to find you again," Marilla repeated. "And since we're losing time anyway, I might as well use some of it to buy a compass and a map. You're going to need one to get to Rashtiga." Mavic clapped his hands and rubbed them together. Aurella cringed and shot him a dirty look as his loud clap occurred right next to her ear. "I have an idea." He threw his pack onto the ground and dug through its contents. "What is it?" Marilla asked. Mavic ignored her question and pulled a piece of parchment from the pack with such force that it ripped in half. "Dang it." He pulled out another piece more carefully and began folding it into a paper boat. He set it on the ground 5 feet away from himself and signed something in the language of the Warlocks. The boat zoomed forward and poked him in the eye. Aurella laughed. "What does your little boat trick have to do with anything?" "I did a spell so that it will fly toward me. Marilla, when you leave, I'll give you the boat, redo the spell, and then when you're ready to find us again, just let it go, and it will lead you right back to us. This way we can keep on walking and not lose any more time, and you'll still be able to find us." He grinned triumphantly. Aurella looked wary. "I can see several things wrong with that plan." "Yes, me as well," Marilla agreed. "What if it flies faster than I can run? And if I'm traveling east and you two are going north, there's no way I'll be able to catch up to you in time. You might walk right into hemlock." "Look, you said you were going into the city to buy a map anyway," Mavic pointed out. "Grab a carriage north and you'll catch up to us just fine. And if the boat flies too fast, just don't let go of it. Hold on to it and keep it in your pocket. It should have enough pull that if you stick your hand in your pocket, you'll feel which direction it wants to go." Marilla opened her mouth to protest, then bit her lip in contemplation. "I think this is probably our best option." Smiling cockily, he threw the boat to her and quickly signed the spell. The boat zoomed toward him with such a force that it dragged Marilla along with it, her hair flying behind her. She tried to hold it back by digging her heels into the ground, but the boat plunged forward until she and Mavic were a groaning heap on the ground. Aurella fell to the floor, peals of loud laughter bubbling out of her uncontrollably. Marilla glared and face-palmed Mavic. "Just because you learned how to control the wind doesn't mean you need to use it for every little thing." "I thought adding a little wind power to it might give it a nice touch," he chuckled. Aurella continued to giggle uncontrollably, but Marilla didn't laugh. All right. Mavic held up his hands in surrender, with an amused smile. "No wind power. Here, take it back. and I won't accidentally blow us over again." He quickly signed the spell again. This time, Morella was able to hold on to the boat without it forcing her forward. It tried desperately to escape her hands, but she held it back with ease and forced it into her pocket. "Okay, I'll be back as soon as I can." She looked back and forth between Aurella and Mavic. "Don't hurt yourselves. Just keep walking north and stay away from animals." She kissed Aurella on the forehead and ruffled Mavic's hair. With that, she turned on her heels and marched east. All right, that's the end of that chapter. The next chapter is called Innocents, Clankers, and Disappearing Friends. All right, so in this chapter, Mavic came up with a plan. I want you to think, was this the best plan for them to split up and then meet up again when Morella had a compass and a map? Or can you think of a plan that would be easier or smarter? I'm going to be honest. As I was reading this chapter, thought of a plan that I think would have been a lot better than what they came up with. So if you have a better plan, go ahead and share it. And if you are in my class and you're on a Google Classroom, feel free to reply to other people's comments. You can say, "I agree, this sounds like a good idea," or you could say, "I disagree because." Just as long as you're being polite, it's okay to disagree with each other. It's good to have a discussion. All right, I will see you guys next time. Bye. Wow, this camera, I got a new camera and it's like sharper. Weird. Okay. And if I'm traveling east and you two are walking north, there's no way I'll be able to. And if I'm traveling east and you two are walking north, there's no way. Dang it. Camera. East. North.